All right.
Her name was Miss Cheatham. So I turned around and me and my mate that I was working with at the time, we just laughed and thought, well, she's got the right name. She's a bloody cheat. And, we kept going with it. But when we got further into it and understood different things, she was telling us the truth. They're not our courts. Your High Court today, which they made in 1979, those bastards have never sworn the right oath. And they removed the right oath out of the system so the political parties could have their own private High Court. All your courts today are owned and controlled by political parties. If you go back in time, pardon?
Can I butt in for a second?
You won't be able to hear you too well, but because I've got go for it. Just speak loud.
I can't because my son's asleep. He works tonight.
Oh, copy.
Just ask Dick about when they created local government under the Australia Acts Request Act.
Oh, did you hear that, Dick?
You want me to quote the local government of the Australia Acts Request Act?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, with this court system that they created, that corporate court sits over all courts, right? But in 1985, they had the Australia Acts Request Act. Now, this is done by every state. Every state put this Australia Acts Request Act in. And when they created us all, like I'll just read you the first paragraph of it. This is...
Copy that. Thank you.
The Australia Acts Request Act, 1985. Now, as I said, every state did it, right? And every state's the same. Right? There was a con job right through the whole system, right? And an act to enable the constitutional arrangements affecting the Commonwealth and the states to be brought into conformity with the status of the Commonwealth of Australia as a sovereign independent federal nation. Now, conformity means to comply with conventions, rules and laws. Now, in our system, we turn around and in our preamble, it clearly states, have agreed to unite in one indissoluble federal Commonwealth under the Crown of the United Kingdom, Great Britain and Ireland, and under the Constitution hereby established. Now that's black and white. Now you turn around and talk about conformity, they're basically telling you straight there and then, because we're not in conform with the sovereign independent federal nation, they're outside our Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act. Then you go to status. If you go into the definition of status, which is very clear in the Oxford Dictionary, status is a noun, the official classification given to a country. So all we did in that system is we turn around and you go into the second paragraph, it says, whereas the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth and the Premiers of the States at conferences held in Canberra on the 24th and 25th of June 1982 and the 21st of June 1984 agreed on the taking of certain measures to bring the constitutional arrangements affecting the Commonwealth and the States into conformity with the status of the Commonwealth of Australia as a sovereign independent federal nation. Right? Now when you just analyse that paragraph, right, you've got the Prime Minister agreed and 6 Premiers agreed. That's 7 people agreed to this, but not the people. You understand that? This is just a fucking con job. So
wow,
they turn
you
around
explain
and
it so well. I'm just in awe. I just okay.
You've got the sovereign independent federal nation. Now, every state after that created a local government act under that sovereign independent federal nation, because they also tell you, if you go further on, that every state, I'm in Victoria as one at the present time, and if you go into your if you go into your Victoria Interpretation and Legislation Act of 1984, Section 58, Declaration of Validity of Certain Laws, subsection 1, each provision of an act or subordinate instrument enacted or made or purported to have been enacted or made before the commencement of the Australia Acts A has the same effect as it would have had, and B is as valid as it would have been if the Australia Act had been in operation at the time of its enactment or purported enactments or making. So therefore, in purport, appear to be or do especially falsely. Now, all they're telling you there is the Australia Acts don't have any
refuses to talk about the
Wind farm.
Say it again.
They're just saying that they're telling you the Australia Acts have no authority. Now, so all acts from then on don't have royal assent.
migrant crisis either. They'll yell about admissions.
Sorry, mate.
Wind
Stuff.
farms.
I'm just trying to. Damn it. Apologise.
Right.
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm right now. Damn it.
Right, now, if you go to Section 13 of the Australia Act, it's amend the Constitution Act of Queensland. Now, unless you have a referendum, you can't do it because it stipulates in that act, no referendum, no act. So that wipes out the Australia Act, Request Act. Western Australia has the same thing in their constitution. If you don't have a referendum to remove, see, like in these things, like in Section 13, if you go into the full Section 13 in the Australia Acts Request Act, they're removing the signet. In 1977, Queensland put in an act into our Queensland Constitution that the signet, if it's anything of that is removed, it has to be only can be done by the people of Queensland. So we never had a referendum. Western Australia did exactly the same thing in 1978 and locked the signet into only the people could take it out. So therefore, those two sections, Section 13 and 14, just wipe out all Australia Acts. But then if you go into Section 16, they've turned around in that. They're different. It's in the interpretation, Section 16's interpretation. In this Act, unless the contrary intention appears, Governor, in relation to a state, includes any person for the time being administering the government of the state. Now, the Governor, under our system, represents the Crown and can only use the Royal Coat of Arms, has to write the writs out for their elections, writes the writs out for referendums, writes the writs out for royal queries and all that sort of thing. So they've removed the Governor from representing the Crown. That's high treason. And to do that, they've removed the letters patent 19th of October 1900, which is copyrighted or and only the Crown can do that. They've wiped it out. So they've removed all Crown authority out of the constitutions, out of all the parliaments. Because the government today doesn't have the Governor today doesn't have the ability to give royal assent, which wipes out Section 58 of the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act, because all acts have to have royal assent. And then if you, I'll just go out of that for a second.
Yeah, Mick, call me and I'll patch you in through the phone too. Right? Mick, can you?
No, it's all right. I'm quite happy just sitting here listening and doing some funny things on the screen.
All right, because Mick, because Dick can't hear you, and I think it'd be good anyway. Look,
I'll go and get the phone.
No, I can't hear Mick.
yeah, he's got to get his phone.
I'll get the phone. 1 second.
Right.
Okay.
He's been he's testing out this. So I said to him, I want to test out this Jitsi Meets. It's a Zoom thing, but it's free. It's got all these different. All the parameters are open, so you can really control it. And I think he's been messing with it that way.
Oh yeah.
But I think what's important is I'm just right to be able to catch up with you. You're speaking really clearly about what you've been covering and what you found, and in the book, I think it's important.
Well, all I'm doing is reading what they've done. So
And I guess the point is that stuff that they need to make sure that we know about it, but none of us cared enough. None of us were being. I don't know if this is how you call it, but too individual with a business that we all own. In other words, we're not doing enough to make sure the rubbish is kept out. And the way I see people going, you can beat the system or leave it. It's your system you created. The only reason why it's in a mess is because not enough Sorry, there's been too many non-playing characters instead of people getting involved and keeping our backyard clean. Instead, people are just going to go, well, this backyard's messy. I'm going to leave, buy another house, and do the same thing. Because running Australia is bloody difficult, and that's why it's gone this way.
Yeah, and when you look at it in that light, you've got your universities, which I always say the professors of law should be taken out and shot. But because you got a lawyer goes to university, he comes out with all that bloody bullshit shit that how the universities are teaching stuff, and they have to teach what the government's done, because otherwise the government's, like, you go back a few years, school teachers went to the Teachers Academy, or whatever you want to call it, education system, right? Now all of a sudden teachers have to go to university to learn. Nurses used to learn in the hospital. You had the nurses' quarters in the hospitals. They learned on the job, like a tradesman learns on the job. Here today, now you go to university to learn. So you learn, I don't know how you learn to wipe somebody's ass, but
That's
anyway.
such a great point.
But, you learn it in a university. So you've got all these things, and now you're bringing all these students from overseas that have to pay their bills. And in today's world, you don't have to, like years ago, to get any degree in a university, you had to pass English before you could even be expected to and be able to enroll with anything. Today, you can just bloody enroll. You've got people from China. I don't understand how they can even get the gifts of things when they turn around and most of them can't speak English properly.
That's exactly
So
right.
You've got all this bullshit system where universities are giving out degrees and false pretenses.
That's right. Big time.
And lawyers and the lawyers are coming out with false pretenses because they're taught under university professors of law. So you got this whole bullshit system going. And if we just go back a minute to the, I'll just read you part of the annotated Constitution. Remember when they took out the first act of 1973, they removed the Most Excellent Majesty. Well, in our Constitution, our annotated Constitution, it says there, by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, every act of Parliament bears on its face the stamp and evidence of its royal authority. It brings from the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, it is the Crown, and if not in Parliament, that legislative authority is, according to constitutional theory, directly vested. So you've got, when you've removed Most Excellent Majesty, and you've turned around and changed the Queen to the Queen of Australia, so you removed the, you've just created a massive amount of treason there and then. You've wiped out the Crown. And if you read Treason in the Crimes Act 1960 or 1959, 1960, treason is still the death penalty.
Well,
I know Whitlam took it out, but Whitlam did it with the Queen of Australia, so it's not worth a pinch of shit.
well, that's
And
another.
there's no Governor General to give it royal assent.
I heard during the COVID, I think it was 2021 or 2022, and they had one of the High Court judges on there, and they made the decision that hanging for misprision of treason and all that sort of stuff, they've decided to change it to life in prison because it's and he said because it's barbaric, and I'm like, oh my! But what people don't realise is that is only pretty much set up for government officials, judiciary officials. And I think the Constitution is to state this is how we want our country to run, and this is how we want our police and our governments to run, and our legal fraternity to abide by these rules that the community and through the Constitution and the Crown have decided on. Is that right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And death penalty still stands today. And he would say barbaric because he's going to wear it.
And I guess they're so used to all this treason, it becomes a white lie now, and treason really, it seems that treason is happening every single day now. Actually,
yes, it's permanent. The whole thing.
Nice shot, Mick.
Pardon?
Oh, I just saw a video of Mick. He's got a noose around his neck.
Oh, but this is the whole thing of it. Sort of like when they won this bloody case in South Australia, he got the judge to the point where he agreed that the Australia Act was no good. So that legislative slide got changed up very quickly after that. But they haven't taken it out. They're still under the Australia Act. And because they've turned around and changed the governor to having no royal assent under the Australia Acts Request Act, and if you go into the back of that Australia Acts Request Act, on the very last page, they tell you that this act now is the Australia Act 1986. So they created the Australia Act 1986 within the Australia Act Request Act because they just rammed it through, all behind everybody's back door. Like I say, there's only 7 people that voted for it. And when you go into it, those 7 people, we don't have a Prime Minister in our Commonwealth Australia Constitution Act, and we don't have a Premier in any of our state constitutions. So they're all outside the system.
Mick's just sent me... I've got that drive, Mick, in front of me. Can you hear me? Hang on, let me get back to him. Stop sharing. Can you hear me, Mick? Can you hear me? All right, so...
I can hear you, mate.
You know that link, the drive, the Google Drive? Do you want me to go to that? Or is that for later?
No, you can go to that whenever you please, mate. It's there. It's all public for the people.
Well, what I wanted...
Just brought my phone back.
What I just wanted to ask you was... I'll share the screen anyway. Is Dick Yardley's book here as well? I know, Queen's... Go.
It certainly is. Yeah, Dick's book's in there. It should have been at the top. When I open it up, it comes up straight at the top. But if it's under D. Yardley book.
This is not in alphabetical order. I'll see if I can find it. Oh, you're going to send it to me, aren't you, anyway?
I've already sent you the book in an email with the link direct to it.
Stand by. Just give me a second, I'm trying to find some. Why can't I find any emails from you at the moment?
Really? I'll send it again.
Oh, no, hang on. Oh, what am I on? Yeah, PIW Web Radio.
Yeah, that's the one where I sent it to.
All right, give me a second.
Yeah, do I phone you or do I...
Yeah, you can ring it up and I'll just patch it in. Hang on, Dick, I think there he is. Give me a standby. Oh, I can't see which is hold, which is not. Hang on. Dick, if I hang up, I'll ring you back in a moment. I know you won't. It's all right. Did you just hang up on me?
No, it's going to message bank.
Oh, that's why I didn't answer it fast enough. I'll ring you back and I'll ring Dick back. Hang on. Let me do it. Oh, it might not. Yeah, I'm ringing you now. All right.
Yep.
So I don't know if this is going to work.
No, I don't either. I think it's easier just to leave Dick on the phone and just me in the background. That way it's just Dick.
Stand by though. I just want to get something out of this first. Hang on. I mean, not out of it, but I just want to see if it's work. I don't know if it will. Hi, mate. Sorry about that. I'm just going to try and merge Mick into this phone call.
No problem.
Hang on. Oh, good. It worked. Mick, you there?
It says I'm on hold.
No, you're not on hold now. Dick, can you hear him?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
We're all on.
I can take them silly things off.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so, mate, that's. I just thought I'd get him on, but I'd like to see today. I was going to catch up with Mick and go through some things that he's been working on. I just thought I'd bring him on because he's been listening to the conversation.
There's no hassle having Mick on.
So I guess look, I don't want to.
Mick does all the bloody computer stuff.
Yep, I'm all over that with him at the moment. So that's what we're going to cover is all his work basically and his T-shirts and stuff as well. To be honest, but what do you think of the plan if you guys can organise some of those people you're talking about that even just stood the book up and read the book out in court to be able to have a chat with him, and all we'd state was, look, just introduce yourself. They don't have to use their name, and just tell us the whole story. And I think that sort of, or tells the whole, positive outcome of this interaction. And I think if we do that with a few of them, then people would be a lot more intrigued about where this information is coming from, what the book is. And while we're doing that, we'll let them know that we'll try and hopefully have the chance to speak to the person who put all these discoveries into a book. And so, and that might be a way to sort of launch it in there. And by the time we get to that point, maybe you guys can work out what are the main points out of all the other discussions that we've had that you guys just really would wish, or not, that really have to push. Not everybody, but we need the people who can to step up and make this a lot more accountable, I guess, and clean up our backyard. I mean, what would be the end goal for that? How would you guys perceive that of actually happening, so to speak? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the way I look at it, unless we have numbers, we're not going to go forward. And like I spent a bit of time with a bloke there last night, and he's in court today, and he rang me up just on his way to court, and he's like, he said, I'll stand there in honour and for everybody in this country. And that's, you can't expect anybody else anymore from anybody to do that.
Yep.
So, sort of that sort of thing, and
Johhny,
he took in one of the...
notice of knowledge.
Notice of knowledge. And he's going to, on that, he can, at the back of that, he can fill out where, like, what people don't realise is when you have the knowledge of treason, if you don't pass it forward,
that's right,
you wear it. And like under that form, it's got there, I have transferred the guilt of knowledge of treason to you and to your heirs and successors. And it was actually a magistrate that told us to put your heirs and successors after that, on that, because he said they change over very quickly. Like you can have, say, a prosecutor, because he's taken you to a court that that's got no crown or constitutional authority, so it's just a fraudulent court. Now, that prosecutor, you can give that to him and put his name there, and his heirs and successors, so that covers the next ones coming along as well.
Wow.
Or the judge, or the registrar, a whole damn lot of them. Even you put this into a cop. It's like when you look at it, just go back into factual parts. When they remove the governor appoints the judiciary alone to keep the separation of powers. Now they've removed the governor from appointing the judiciary alone with Crown authority. So tell me, what authority does a judge have? Sweet bugger all.
Wow.
None.
What authority does a cop does? All a cop is a costume wearing, pedophile protecting mercenary for political parties. That's all a cop is.
Bottom line,
that can be proved.
Bottom line, super clear, Mr. Yardley. I really appreciate this. Is out of all the other things that I've been speaking about, there's always been a bit of fog. And either speaking with you today, which is an absolute pleasure, so thank you very much for all your time, but also with Mick, it's clearing up a lot of fog with how you speak about it. So this letter of letter of
Notice of knowledge.
It's a lawful Victorian lawful notice.
So if I've got no court case,
I've done one for every state.
Awesome. Okay, so if I've got no court case, can I go into the courtroom or into the magistrates and go, I need to publicly submit this to you? And so
Not
now
really,
that you know...
because it's a private. Can you go into Woolworths and tell them how to run Woolworths?
It's
the same issue.
No, I can try. But, yeah.
You can try, but you get told to fuck off, and that's it. What can you do about it? Nothing. You got to wait till they take you to that court. So your prosecutor is in deep shit. Your cop is in deep shit because they're taking you to a court.
Okay, hang on. So the next point is, couldn't we have a community advocate sitting at all the magistrates' court handing out that paper and go, give that to them first, okay? And make a big fuss of that could be a movement. Would that work? That would just cause chaos.
Yeah, like Mick's got videos of people that walked into the police departments, not trying to be smart or smuck or anything like that, and the cops ask them to leave because, and all they wanted to do was talk about the Constitution and explain a few things to the cops about the Constitution, and then all they get is asked to leave. We're not interested in it. Now, they're law enforcement.
That's law enforcement. No. What do you mean? That? Or if they say that's above my pay grade, that is their pay grade. That's what they stand for.
That's exactly right. That's what they stand for.
The only thing they stand for.
If they don't know the law, that's why I say they're costume-wearing, pedophile-protecting mercenaries. And you turn around and you get Bill Hefferman. He turns around and says this is a police document, and on this there is a prime minister in this list, and he's talking about pedophiles.
Yeah, and the gorilla and the gorilla in lace. What's his name?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the judge in New South Wales.
And he's still got to operate.
They're still there. So where are the cops? This is what I'm getting at when they turn around and say they're pedophile protecting.
Oh, wow, that's perfect. I should have said that on the steps. Where are the police? And just where are the police? Oh, wow.
See, the police, when we were up north, we had the farm, they were taking all this bullshit with this bloody World Heritage and shit. They took all the dirty big power lines out of the World Heritage area and put them through everybody's farm. And they just went in with machinery, just cleared the bloody area, and bloody will put these big towers in. And you couldn't give a damn whether you had private land or all this sort of thing. They just walked in because under the system of sovereign independent federal nation, in 1973, they had the Lands Acquisition Act. And in that, in 1973, they removed the Governor-General out of control of the land because it's Crown land. The Governor-General had to be in control of it. But so they removed him and put in the minister, and then they changed the definition of land from yards to metres. So therefore, this is creating their Commonwealth is all in metres. So you come to 1985 when every state joins this system as a sovereign independent federal nation. I should say 7 people have joined it.
Yes.
But all our land went from yards to metres. Now, you buy a block of land today, it's X amount of metres, 800 metres, so many hectares, all this sort of thing. It's their Commonwealth of Australia and their definition of Victoria or Queensland, not ours. And see, by changing the definition, like when you go back to their statement of sovereign independent federal nation, they've turned around and removed, like under our Commonwealth Australia Constitution Act, Clause 6, all states are original states as established at the time of the Commonwealth. Well, they removed the word Commonwealth, which is the preamble and the clauses.
Yep.
So now that we're under a sovereign independent federal nation, so now our Queensland is not under the Constitution, our Commonwealth Australia Constitution Act. Our Queensland or Victoria or any other state is a sovereign independent federal nation. So how can you have royalty in it? You can't have royalty, so you can't have a governor giving royal assent. You can't have a crown document that gives you the authority of your land, which is under the Defender of the Faith, which every state removed the Church of England, which removed the Defender of the Faith. Therefore, your land title now is in their system of their Queensland, not as in our Queensland. So now we don't own anything.
Wow. And then but they don't want people to know that that's the case because, well, we'll be up in arms. But they don't say it. But see, Mr. Yardley, I've seen that. See, I've been watching TV and the news hasn't said anything of that sort. So, I mean,
this is the hardest part to get it out.
And I think they've got to realise that the reason why they're not doing that because it puts the government into disrepute to a point, or it shows the malfeasance in office, for instance.
All your public servants.
All of them.
And like I was talking to a bloke there last night, and we talked about public servants. If you go back to the old days, we had civil servants.
The civil department. That's right.
Explain this to me this morning.
Things are just taken out and rearranged. Like you turn around and you go into their, I keep trying to get people to go into the federal office and get the bloody, pocket constitution. Now in there's always signatures. Now they're even using pictures of people, right? You've got the Senator, the Honourable Sue Lyons. I'm just reading out of one of them.
Yes, Sue Lyons. She's on this. I'll see if I can find the. Yep, Sue Lyons. She's
She's the bloody president of the Senate. Now you've got the next bloke here that signed it, the Honourable Mark Dreyfus or whatever his name is, but he's an MP, and the next bloke's an MP. Why aren't they MHRs? Because they're not in our parliament. They should be members of the House of Representatives. And the same in the States, they should be MLAs, members of the Legislative Assembly. But they're all class themselves as MPs because that's the definition they changed. They're under that system. They're not under our system. It's all
time for everybody to drop the ego.
Pardon?
It's time for everybody to drop the ego.
Yeah, I mean, I've got something here, like I was talking about this initiating rip from a different author, and that name you just mentioned is within this one. But Linda White passed away, so that's all different. But I'll share it with you. Actually, it's available to everybody, but it's a different battlefront. But it talks about the Acts, Amendments, and Repeals, Courts, Legal Practices Act, and the Crown being replaced with the state, Commonwealth, and the monarch replaced with prosecutor or state or Commonwealth prosecutor, and that's right there, and that's sort of. But one of the last things it says, where is it? And I just do like reading this last line, whenever I can find it. The concealment of this fact has caused damage to the plaintiff. So basically what you've been sharing with us, the concealment of that fact does damage to all of us, but we don't realise. And then I realised the damage is if Australia is a person and, for instance, gas and all that is a product that we sell, and instead of getting the 80 billion that we're so-called meant to get, we're getting 2 billion. That's how much we're getting ripped off in money. So that means that we probably we could have had free healthcare or free schooling out of that scenario.
In Queensland, we used to have free healthcare.
Yeah.
Hospitals were free. Yeah. And it was paid for by the bloody, we had a lottery ticket.
Yep.
I forgot what it's called, anyway, it was a lottery ticket, and the money that was saved from that used to pay all the medical fees of the hospitals and everything.
Yep. And
now you just take a look at now, you've got a hospital in Darwin closing down because the insurance companies aren't paying the bill. Yep. So it was just came through this morning that pregnant ladies that have got the private health insurance now have to go to a public hospital because the private hospital was shutting down.
Yep.
You sort of, when the fuck are we going to wake up?
Yeah, and this is what I meant. And look, I was dreaming, but I thought I'd go for it. And I called out blatantly and boldly 100,000 men. Because that 100,000 men could convince the police officers or the other men who are in the uniforms that we pay for and the badges with honour to move on that. This needs something, I mean, unless, I should say, I don't know how we finalise this, but the governing people of Australia need to become, just for the moment, the governors and the enforcers, because they're the ones who paid, they're the ones who created, our ancestors created this system, and all of us have dropped the ball, and we've dropped the ball to the point where we haven't looked at our business, and because we haven't looked at it for a good 30 odd years, people are stealing and taking everything from us, but we don't even know we had.
No, this is the thing. We don't know our rights we had either.
Yeah, and the way we're living now, yeah, we can get by, but people don't realise, mate, we should be working 10 hours a day, 10 hours a week, and getting the same amount of money we're doing now, and building on our future and difference. And they know that, and now they've gone, well, we can keep taking money from them because no one's saying anything, and until they start to kick up a fuss, well, by that time, we'll have enough of the money that we'll have more money than them, even though it's their product. And we'll have control. But it doesn't work that way. And these sorts of discussions and listening to people like yourself really is quite empowering. Even with some of the things you talk about, this other author's talking about in the period of 2002 to 2004, a federal state, Western Australia, introduced legislation into the state parliament with the intention of removing the Crown Monarch and the Oath of Allegiance. The Act is titled the Act of Amendments and Repeals Courts Legal Practice Act. Concealment of this fact causes damage to the plaintiff. Now, the thing is, the cause of this, using the Commonwealth, brings not just there, even though it's held over there in the state, they use the Commonwealth. So the plaintiff states that the Act did include the Commonwealth into the actual Act without any Commonwealth Act permitting the inclusion of the Commonwealth into the Western Australian Act. And such is a fracture of federation. Okay, the concealment of this fact, again, causes damage to the plaintiff. All I'm saying is, what we're talking about is there is damage to all of us. We just don't realise it. And we should have, our supers shouldn't be taxed. We should have hardly any tax anyway. Life should be a lot better.
If you go back into a super and stuff, our pension, 7% of your tax, or 7-point-something% of your tax is put aside in a special system for all pensions. Now, pensions shouldn't be if you earn so much you don't get a pension. Bullshit. You've paid tax, you get a pension. Now, the pension system gets robbed every time the political parties go out of money or want money, and they look at the pension fund. Okay, it's so many billions of dollars, we'll just take it out. And now they turn around and tell us that we're not entitled to a pension, it's a gift from the government. Bullshit. We've paid for it in our taxes.
No, yeah, you're right on.
And this superannuation is just another form of getting money out of you, so they can turn around and say, well, you don't have the pension anymore. You've got your superannuation. Like I've been told with the young ones, that, well, we won't get a pension because we've got to have our superannuation. Now, superannuation, well, I had to have when I was bloody flying all around the countryside, working. And when we went down in 2008 or whenever it was, all those companies went down, they just cut the pension funds or the superannuation funds to hell and ripped the shit out of them. There's that much money lost in that bullshit system. Wasn't funny. This whole system is just one bloody big con of how all it boils down to is bloody money. And let's face it, when you look at it, a whole system of corruption is paid in counterfeit money.
Here's a great example, and the reason why they get away with it, because in every scenario, only 1 out of 100,000 men turn up to fight the battle.
That's right. That's the biggest hassle. That's what sort of people like you and Mick and getting this stuff out is the greatest thing out. And as I say, it's irrelevant of names and it's irrelevant of everything. Everything is just... See, as I said to you before, how can I copyright?
Exactly right.
All my stuff is copy and paste. It's all a case of just get it out there.
That's right. Well, this is going to be a great conversation to share with everybody out there, and I'd like to, in future, be able to, follow up with this. It's been quite enlightening. I really appreciate what you've done here and your time, and I'd like to see what else I can do more. And I think Mick and yourself will be able to work out, who we should be speaking to, some of the great experiences from the book that you've had, and or the other people have had with it. So I don't want to keep you on the phone for too much longer. It's been fantastic anyway, and I do want to do some things with Mick. I want to let people know about these T-shirts he's got and back him up with the work he's done, because he's basically produced all your work.
Yeah, he needs help there for sure.
Well, thank you for being an absolute outstanding advocate for our community and holding in there for so many years. Just really quickly, when did your book come out? What year was it? 80s, wasn't it? Late 80s?
Oh, I don't know. No, should know. It would have been... Oh, hell. Hang on a minute. I'll go back and...
You know my point that I'm raising for this. It just shows how many one of every 100,000 men have stood up and done something. And if we're a bit smarter before, if we're as smart as we are now when COVID started, some things like what you've done could have led the whole way if it was only more than one. If they had the 700,000 just backing one total thing, not being hijacked by glory finding, egotistical, and it happens when there's heaps of people. It happens. We're all people. These sorts of things can happen and take over. I mean, there are some people I really appreciate the risk and the effort they went through, but it went.
Well, it's not so much of a risk. It's just bloody, like all it is facts.
Yep.
I know in court, when I put facts into court, when I was in the courts, they would just tell me, we don't recognise that anymore. We don't. You bring in court cases, they don't recognise that anymore if it doesn't suit them. And like the judge will tell you, I won't have that in my court. Well, he's just told you straight to your face that this is not a Crown court.
Yep.
Oh, so, wow, you put that so well. I wish I knew that one. Sorry. It's clearing up.
I can't remember when it would have been around the early 2000s the book went out. It might have been even later than that. It would have been... It's been out for about 10 years.
There you go.
Somewhere around that.
I'm gonna call you as Mr. DY. Clearing the brain fog of clearing my.
Can I just put my 2 cents worth in?
Yeah, you can, mate.
Dick has educated me something shocking, and one of the main things that I've taken from Dick is that nobody reads. Dick has told me this from the very start, and I myself can now see it clearly that nobody reads and nobody listens. And if we actually sat down and comprehended what Dick has researched, along with every other Australian, this shit show of a circus would end tomorrow.
Simple as that.
And I think we need to publish the point that universities are the nucleus of the treason.
Yes.
Because they're the teachers of it.
And they should know better.
Oh,
they
yes,
should
definitely.
know a lot better.
Like when we started off in 1992, when they wanted to take the back of our farm for World Heritage Buffer Zone, and I said, fuck off, I own the bloody place. And anyway, we went to the university to find out what a law looked like. We didn't know what an act even looked like. We went to the university library. We had a bit of a job because it's a bloody great big library. But anyway, we found where the law books were, and we opened up, and you try and read the damn things, and you think, how the hell can anybody understand this shit? But then you get into it, and like a professor, all he's got to do is get off his fat ass and walk into the library and look for himself. It's all there. So this is another thing we found in Queensland. I was talking to another lady that was in Parliament, and she said to me one day, she said, Dick, if you need to know something, put it in writing, send it to me. I'll put my letterhead on it, and I'll send it to the office. because she was up the table ends up the top of where we were. But anyway, she got her one of her staffers to go into the parliamentary library. This is where they hide all the treason, into the parliamentary library, and she sent me back some photographs of the books of the acts that were coming through. Now, they were running 2 sets of books to get their different seals through. And if you go back into 1991 when they first started using it, it's a fudged seal. So it's a public functionary seal that's very fudged, and so you can't actually read the seal.
Yep.
Not the raw coat of arms that comes through on the proper stuff. And they would turn around still using the raw coat of arms, but in the universities, in the books, and on the internet when we started learning to use that, they were using a different seal to what was published in the parliamentary library. In other words, they're running 2 sets of books. This is all high treason, and when you get into it, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yes. Criminals are being rewarded.
And they've done it because, well, I know it's really hard for some people to sort of comprehend this, but they've done it because no one's stopping them.
That's right. And in today's world, like we're finding out now that lawyers are starting to get bumped up because they just, people are starting to stand up, and lawyers are not getting the sort of they had the system of bloody where they could just easily win this and win that. Yes.
They had a monopoly.
And now the people are starting to find out that lawyers are not worth a pinch of shit.
Well,
and when you turn around and read out how they've got into their system, they've turned around and they're just bloody. I'll just read you. I don't know whether I've read it to you.
How can any courts be a Chapter 3 court with a crown removed? Firstly,
say that again.
How can there be a Chapter 3 court with a crown removed?
Yeah, this is the thing. You can't have it, but you still have a Chapter 3 court because they've copyrighted 9th of July 1900. They've copyrighted that Constitution that came through then. And that's why when I write up the Constitution, I write out the Commonwealth Australia Constitution Act 1901 as proclaimed and gazetted under the Raw Coat of Arms, because they can't copyright the Raw Coat of Arms. But they've copyrighted all our Constitution and put their corporate seal over it.
So it's the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia, not the Australian Commonwealth Constitution, if that's the case.
Well, if you go to the book, it calls it Australia's Constitution. Now, if you go into the documentation of the name of the Commonwealth Australia Constitution Act, Clause 1 of the, which they don't, as I say, they don't consolidate it anymore, which means they don't bring it forward. But it stipulates there, this act may be called the Commonwealth Australia Constitution Act. So the may gives you an option. So you go to the Acts Interpretation Act, which is the definition for all the acts, and it says the Constitution Act, which is a capital T. The Constitution Act is the Commonwealth Australia Constitution Act. So unless you use those 2 names, you're not talking about it.
Yep.
Wow.
So, sort of law is black and white. And we've got the black and white, and we've got their black and white, and our black and white. And we're using the same names like Commonwealth Australia, Queensland, Victoria, or New South Wales, whatever. We're using the same names, but they just change the definitions behind them.
Well, I reckon, especially with how you've really, Mr. Yardley, cleared my brain fog from all this government corruption and where we were and where we're at, it really has been powerful. And maybe I should have been calling for 100,000 men to stand on these types of scenarios, or even the acknowledgement of this to make it work. And then to look, there must be good people within the system that are stuck with their hands in mud because they're also by themselves, to be the devil's advocate. Maybe there is some Queen's councillors and barristers and stuff that would love to do this, but knows the system and knows no one's going to care. But
when they learn the system, they keep telling you, but we can't let you win.
Yep.
Now you turn around and just think about your barristers and QCs. How the fuck can you have a QC when there's no crown? And he won't give up that status of being a QC. And you turn around and a barrister, there's a number of barristers that friends of mine that I've helped out, have talking to, agreed, get the hell out of that shit, they say. And eventually they say, yeah, okay, we understand, you're right, but we can't let you win. All their gains are ill-gotten gains. They can walk out of court when we're finished in their underpants.
Yeah,
we'll take everything out of them. And the same with all your counsellors. It's all ill-gotten gains.
And this is the thing, they're going to keep getting away with it. People don't realise.
Until we stand up. And like when I was fighting the council, I used to put all this stuff to them. And the CEO would just wipe it all out. Like it amused me, like we'd have write up letters and send them. I always prefer to not do the internet. I would prefer to have the hard copies, so I get a return receipt back to say that they've got it. And we'd have about 20, 30 councillors we'd write to. So there's a fair bit of paperwork going in and folders. So we put it into each one, and we go into their pigeonholes in their bloody in the councils, and they would take it out. And after say half a dozen or a dozen of them have got them, they go to the CEO and say, "What's happening here?" And he would go through out of the pigeonholes, pull them all out, and write return to sender on them, which doesn't worry me because I got the return receipt that they've got them. He'd write return to sender on them, but they'd all be stamped as well as cancel received. So it's just a fucking joke.
That's unreal. So
I helped a lady up in North Queensland. She got stuck into the councils and she gave them everything, a lot of my documents. And then she got a meeting with them. And at the meeting they gave a quarter of an hour speech. So she turned around and she spoke to the council and she said, now you've got all the information I've given you, what are you going to do about it? Mm. And the CEO pipes up and he says, righto, he says, all your writings had treason in them. So I love using that word. But anyway, they had treason in them. He says, we've taken treason out of the criminal code. So none of your write-ups work. Now, when you look at it, he just admitted their knowledge of treason because they took it out. And the reason treason is in the criminal code is because of the Crown. It's her security. And so he's just admitted to the knowledge of treason being taken out. So he's just put treason on himself.
Yep.
So, sort of, people, even the higher up you go, the dumber they get.
Certainly is.
Or is it the more arrogant they get?
Yeah.
So is this our 100,000 man stand that should be happening instead of what I did maybe? Because really,
yes.
this has some real. The only reason why, and if people are listening to this and say, well, no one can do anything because you don't have 100,000 men or more standing for this, for that. And if you don't, then it doesn't. Then well, if you got only one person saying all these people are stealing money from my shop, no one's going to do anything. But if you got 100,000 men saying these people are trying to steal money from them, they won't be back. And that's what we need to have. So.
Like Nick says at times here, after a while these bastards won't be going to walk the streets.
Yep.
So our 100,000 man stand is what I'm talking about, and this is whatever I speak to you, it's going to be from that, and then maybe one day there'll be 100,000 men standing with a letter of knowledge or whatever it is that you know. We'll get there, but I'm going to look forward to listening to, and I'd love to be able to catch up with some people who have taken your book into court and done what they've done. I think it's an outstanding testimony to the work and the discoveries that you've made. So
it's just copy and paste. The whole system is, like I say, sort of it's there for everybody.
Okay,
everybody could do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, no, but you did that research. That didn't take 15 minutes, okay? Now we have okay, so how's this? We have 5 minutes to end up around an hour, so it's a nice good hour run-up that people can listen to and let people know that I'm looking forward to seeing what else we can do when we catch up, because I'm going to have a lot of fun with this and empower and let people know I was calling out for 100,000 men. I think this is has more status and more depth for hundreds of thousands of men to stand up and go, enough's enough. We will get our country back. You represent us and not these infiltrators, and here are the laws. And if you don't recognise that, then you will be. We have to arrest them. People need to understand that these, or at least that process of going through that, even if they're released and brought into police station and the police release them, just that effort as well is something that's never happened before, and it'll make them think. It might actually bring the good out of them, because that's what it is.
And let's face it, they can all go on the internet and pull it up and read it for themselves. And prove to themselves. Like somebody will tell me something and I never push it forward unless I can prove what he said is right. So they can just do the same thing with all my stuff, because it's all copied and pasted out of their system.
Their own paperwork.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's perfect. We've got 4.5 minutes, so I'm going to sort of wrap it up. And as I do, I'd like you to work out what else you'd like to sort of finish off with, maybe speaking about the book, but look, there's a few things from this encounter, which has been quite empowering. Really quickly, we've done really well with what I did in the past. We do have a counsellor here in Bass Coast that's got Jordan Canale coming to speak about the tax levy. That's another thing, but that's just another point. But speaking with Mick, especially with Mick, and having his connection with him and Dick Yardley, to run a marathon of Dick Yardley's book on our page, and the other videos of updates. We need to be educated. We need to be empowered. And 100,000 men, we need to stand up for our children and our kids on not just my idea. Now we have some depth, some proven legal stance regarding what's been happening. Mr. Yardley, I'll leave that with you. Finish it off.
Well, just take, for instance, the High Court, their private High Court even tells us that the money's counterfeit. So you turn around and what has the bank lent you? How can you have a contract with your house, your car, boats, whatever you want, your farm, when the bank has lent you fraudulent contract? It's signed up with a contract with counterfeit money. So just start to think for yourselves a bit. What the hell is happening in this country? They're taking ownership of everything. And your rates today, what they claim your rates is your rent money to the political parties for their land, because they've taken ownership of it all under their changed definitions. And councils are just straight out an extortion racket. They're no different to the mafia, sending their big boys around to take whatever they can off you. Yep. And it's all done with the counterfeit money.
On the 14th of June, I'd like to have, speaking with you guys, a plan of attack for Bass Coast Shire Council. There is question time coming up, and even though they don't recognise it, I think we're going to be ready to be really prepared for it. This meeting with the tax itself to take advantage and support that as well, and then educating people. This is why it's happening, and doing it that quickly. In this hour, you've cleared my mind and a lot of understanding of the differences between why and where and how we're in this position. And we're in this position because not enough people know, or bottom line is, we need 100,000 men to be working together on this, not one or not two. And we can't be relying on anybody else. So if you hear this, get involved, contact us, we'll let you know, read more, study more. We'll be running the books through our broadcast, and hopefully have every single page read out of the book that Dick Yardley's put together, and all the discoveries and the cutting and pasting of no ideas. It's straight black and white. People.
Yeah, it's not interested. Ideas don't mean jack shit.
As you've taught me today, and wow, did it hit home, Mr. Yardley. I really loved it. And I think how you've explained everything and how you've proven it, and be able to speak to some people in the future about the outcomes. 100,000 men and more just gather. And if we must be able to get 100,000 men Australia-wide to turn up and get this action done. Bring their families. People, never give up, never hold back, and never surrender. People, this is your friendly neighbour, Web Radio Man, the one and only Mr. Fantastic and Team Fantastic on Cancel Government Watch. God bless you all. Thank you, Mick. Thank you, Mr. Yardley. Guys, we'll be back with even more. Prepare yourselves. Let's step it up one, two or three notches. God bless you all. Thanks for your time.